Time to take a look at the hives again. We're going to start with the north hive today. We added the second box last week. We brought 2 frames up from below. We put an empty frame in between. So let's take a look and see how they're doing. Actually, it looks quite good. So we can see the 2 frames that we brought up and the frame in between, and we can see a lot of comb building happening. And ideally what we'd like to see is on the middle frame, new comb being built on both sides, and maybe on the insides of the 2 empty frames, new frames that were on the outside of the ones that we moved up. Pop out the frame here on the outside, remembering that all of this hive, this box, was brand new last week. So this one is clearly going to be empty, nothing on it, as expected. Should be true also of this next frame. Nothing on it. So on the top box on the north hive, those were frames 9 or 10 and 9. So on frame number 8, which is up against one of the frames that we moved up, a bit of space. So let's have a look. So on the outside, nothing happening, but on the inside, oh, we see a lot of new comb development. This is all brand new comb since a week ago. And in fact, they're even starting to cap some honey up here at the top, and we can see farther down a lot of nectar in those cells. So this is clearly being built as a honey cell. Boy, that's looking really nice. This next frame is one of the ones that we moved up. It had pollen and honey on it and some nectar. And let's see, what we want to look for now is whether any brood is present. So has the queen come up into this box and started to lay eggs here up above to expand oh my gosh, this one is super heavy. Oh, I think it was a little bit attached. Oh my gosh, it's really heavy. So on this side that I'm looking at, the outside of number 7, we can see lots of honey, and we see lots of larvae as well. You see right there in the middle, good larvae. So has the queen been here laying new eggs, or is this some of what we brought up? Not 100% sure. We're going to look and see if the queen is here, active. I don't see her thus far, but we can have a look. Oh, and there's a supersedure, a queen cell there on the bottom. Okay, let's have a look on the other side. As I said, it's really heavy, this frame. Oh, lots of activity on this side as well. So same thing, we see a lot of honey. You can see that here as I flipped over. You can see all across the bottom. We see lots of larvae in the cells. We see lots of capped cells. We see another queen cell there on the bottom. Oh, actually with a larva inside it. You see that one? But I don't know if that's a queen cell. It's actually quite small. So perhaps not. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Yeah. So let's take a look now at the other frame that we brought up from the bottom box last week. So, oh, it's also really heavy. Oh, look at all that honey and pollen. So all the honey, all the capped honey around the top, and we see lots and lots of pollen in the cells down below. I don't see sign of egg laying. So this is definitely about honey and pollen. So this is all about food. So now we're going to take a look on this is the north hive. This is the top box. This is a frame. This is the new frame that we put right in the middle between the 2 that we elevated. It's pretty, oops, stuck. Oops, that was a bit too quick. This was a completely empty frame that we put in. This is frame number 6 on the top box. So if we first look on the outside, the B side, we see again all brand new comb, a lot of honey development, up in the top of the capped white part. We see a lot of the other cells on the way to getting there, full of nectar. So that is looking really, really good. So I'm going to move this frame that has a lot of honey on it a little bit farther to the outside. So we're going to take this frame up. That's a completely empty frame. Just sit it here for a moment. And we're going to move this one out. I'm going to move that one out. I'm going to put this new frame in between, so to encourage some more comb development here toward the center. I'm going to move that one over. So that was the empty frame that we had elevated last week. And so we have two new ones there. We're going to move this really nice and heavy one back in toward the center. We're going to move one of these empty frames there adjacent to it. Move this one back across. Last but not least, we'll put this frame that's still without any comb. We'll leave it there on the outside. So we completed the inspection of the top box here. So we're going to go take the top box off, set it aside, and see what's happening on the box down below. So let's make sure it's not too stuck. There we go. We're going to lift that off. It's going to be quite heavy, I expect, and I am right. It is. We're going to set that down right there. And let's have a look into this box. We see a lot of honeycomb development here on the top, so we're going to clean that away. Let's lift some of these frames out. So this frame still remains without any comb at all, so that's bottom box frame number 10, nothing on it. Let's move into frame number 9, same issue. So what we want the brood development, the comb development, to start to move out from the center to some of these outer boxes. So we may relocate some of what's closer to the center, frames that essentially have honey on them, to the outside, and put some of these untouched frames closer to the middle. So here we're looking now at, so that was frame 10 and 9. So this is frame number 8 on the bottom of the north hive. So let's pull that out. So on the outside, the B side, nothing there, like the two frames before it. But on the inside, we see some very nice honey development. So that's looking really good. So this one we're going to move to the outside. A lot of bee activity. No, we won't expect to find the queen here. This is not a place where brood is present. This is honey, purely honey. And the cells that aren't capped, we can see nectar inside them, so that's on the way to being capped honey. So this is really great. This is food storage. So we're going to move that to the outside of the box and leave it over there. So let's take another step in, and let's have a look at frame number 6. So we're getting back into the center of things, where the brood is, where the bees are being made, where we should find our queen somewhere in here. This one is also quite light. So on the bee side, some light comb development, probably 35–40%ish. A lot happening, but a lot still to be done. On the A side, conversely, we see a lot of pollen. Now we're starting to see that nice red pollen. So the red pollen is coming from the horse chestnut trees, and we have a lot of them here in the neighborhood. So the pollen that they're bringing back isn't yellow like what we've been seeing mainly until now, but it's a nice brick red, and we can see it in those cells. Okay, now we're getting really into the heart of things. So this is frame number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, frame number 6. One of the original gently used frames that we had started with, where we know a lot of brood has been present. So a lot of bee making has been happening. Eggs and larvae and capped larvae, eventually new bees emerging. So on the bee side, we see, as always, a lot of activity. Now we're starting to look for our queen. And will we find her here? Don't see her so far. Here we see a lot of pollen. We see some really nice, plump, juicy larvae. We see some cap cells. We see some honey up in the corner. We'll take a look at frame number 5 on the lower box on the north hive. And what we can see there is a lot of capped larvae. This is a perfect example of brood development. It is completely full. Bit of honey across the top, and it's probably 80% full of capped larvae. This is really wonderful. And rather comparably on the other side, bit of honey across the top and lots of capped larvae, lots of brood, and we see some larvae here. We see a lot of pollen across the bottom. So a really nice example of a good solid frame. Frame number 3 on the lower box on the north hive. On the bee side, pretty light comb development, probably a bit over 50, maybe 60%. Filling that with nectar. No brood, too early for brood at this stage. We don't see our queen there. So once again, this hive is proving notoriously difficult to find the queen. Frame number 9 is completely empty. This is brand new last week. Frame number 8 on the bee side, bit of comb development, very light, hardly counted. On the other hand, on the other side we have some good development. Let's call that 70%. So that's looking good. Going another step into number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is one of the, not one of the frames we moved up. This was a brand new frame. And here we see a lot of activity. So on this side, pretty complete comb development, not complete, let's call that 80%. Starting to put some nectar into the cells. If we take a look on the other side, we see a bit of burr comb there at the bottom. We take a look on the other side, a lot of comb development, pretty complete, 100%, with a bit of honey across the top and then nectar all through. So good. Up 6B, quite heavy. Here we see a lot of honey. Here we see larvae. Here we see capped brood cells. So this is one that we had moved up with larvae present already. It's not necessarily evidence that the queen has been up here yet, although it's a possibility. So that's the B side of number 6. And over on the A side, we see something, oh, that's looking really good. Loads of capped brood in the top box. So this is excellent. This box is building out really quick. Do we see our queen here? We probably wouldn't. We see lots of larvae, uncapped larvae down here, lots of capped larvae, lots of honey across the top. This is absolutely perfect and what we would hope to see. So let's put that one back. That was number 6. One of the ones that we moved up. So now we're at number 5, which was an empty frame that we had put between the two frames. We had moved up, number 5. So on the, oh my gosh, look at that on the bottom. Do you see it? So they've built out into the, oh, is that an empty space down below? What is that all about? Oh my gosh, there's a big empty space in the box below. We'll have to check that out. So that we don't want, so we're going to take that off. But there's a lot of activity on this one. We could see the number 4, top box, south hive. So we see a very nice frame on the A side, lots of capped larvae, lots of nectar, lots of honey. On the B side, do we see our queen? She could be on this one. Don't see her. So let's have a look on the other side. So on the B side, frame number 4, very nice, lots of brood, capped larvae, nectar, honey. And we could also potentially see our queen on this one. So this top box is doing exceptionally well. So let's put that back inside. I took another very big piece of burr comb. If you can look here in the box, Carlita, 2 large pieces of burr comb that they had built on the bottom of the frames. We're going to get the bees off them eventually, but they had built into the space, empty space apparently in the box below that we'll have to check out shortly. So we're putting the feeder back in. We had taken it out to give it a complete cleaning. So we've taken it inside and washed it out because the syrup, the sugar syrup sitting too long in it can get a bit sour, a bit rancid. So we didn't want that. So we've cleaned it and refilled it. So the box is complete. We've got all of these bees we're going to deal with in a moment. But for the moment, what we want to do is take this box off and set it down over here and see what's going on in the bottom box and why all that burr comb got built through. It's not really good. Not what I had expected. I must have left a gaping hole that I did. I don't know how that happened when we were in here the last time. That is very, very peculiar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In fact, there's 2 frames missing. How is that even remotely possible? Okay. So I want to clean some of this mess off the top here. And we'll just put that into our box. Give us a bit more room where the boxes meet. A lot of that is full of honey, but that's okay. All right, oddly, 2 missing frames here. So this box is looking quite full up to this side, less so here. So I'm actually going to take these frames away first because that one is completely empty, and I'm going to end up moving that closer to the middle. So that was frame number 1. Frame number 2, also a bit of development on that side, but not a lot on that frame. So frame number 3, on the other hand, seems to have a lot of activity on it. You can see on this side a lot of, looks like relatively new comb. This is one where we potentially could see the queen. I don't, but we could. I don't see eggs in the cells. I see a lot of nectar. And on the other side, very light comb development. So in fact, we're going to move this one to the outside. So we're going to leave that right there for a moment. Okay, let's take a look in here. I'm going to have to separate these a bit. They're pretty stuck together. Watch out, guys. There we go. This is one of the originals. Let's see what we find here. So on the B side, a lot of capped cells. We see some, we see larvae, uncapped larvae. We see pollen. We see a bit of honey. Do we see our queen here? I don't
drone cells.
See here a lot of drone cells and a lot of drones. So they're producing some drones, which is okay, but also lots of regular worker bees. I put an empty frame in here. that they can work on. So there's 5. We can move 6 back across. We've had a look at that. Tighten it up. Okay, so this is 10-9 frame number 8. Let's have a look. It's looking quite complete. In fact, heavy. A lot going on here. So on the B side, oh, the queen might be here. Who knows? The queen has been here definitely. There's a lot of larvae on this one, capped and uncapped. A bit of honey across the top, so that's looking good. Let's have a look on the other side. So this is frame 8. Oh, this is perfect. We saw one like this on the other box. Completely full of brood. Completely full of brood. So lots of capped cells waiting for new bees to emerge, and a bit of honey at the top. So let's put that right back down inside. We're going to smoke a bit. We want to get these bees back down below, off the top. So you can see the smoke causes them to retreat off the top of the box, which is what we want. So we don't squish any bees as we put this box back on top. It's another heavy box back on top. So okay, now let's try to put some of these bees. This is going to be pretty interesting. Try to put some of these bees and just try to shake them into the box. Oh, not as hard as I might have expected. Let's try that with the other one. So this is just good old-fashioned beeswax. Maybe we can make a candle. It's actually really light once the bees get off it. Okay, that was easy. We have a few more bees in here we'll deal with momentarily. There we go. Okay, last thing we want to do is we have a lot of bees here. Look at this. So a lot of bees have decided that this pine cone is really interesting. So we're going to give them a shake just to get them off the pine cone. And we have a bunch of bees in here that have found some honey lingering about, and they've decided to feast on that. So we're going to also ask them please to make an exit. There we go. A little piece of burr comb. That's a few bees there. Okay, with that, we're done.